Come here. Get off.
Today we're talking to ArinMaya, pronouns she and her. ArinMaya is an inspirational singer, songwriter, sound healer, activist, and entrepreneur who's described as having a unique and ancient sound. Ooh. Though she's been called the mayor of Brooklyn, she originally hails from Chicago's South Side, where her artistic training began with studies in West African dance and rhythms and community choirs. Inspired by past studies with Bobby McFerrin and other giants, ArinMaya created Meditation Moments, a community offering meant to help people self-heal and center themselves in the midst of COVID-19. She shared the stage with countless icons, and she's also a founding member, arranger, and musical director with the Resistance Revival Chorus. She's performed on The Late Show with Jimmy Fallon, on NBC's Saturday Night Live, and for incarcerated youth at Rikers Island. With multiple singles and EPs under her belt, ArinMaya is hard at work on several projects, including her second full-length album, I Love My Afro Ratchet Soul. Thanks for coming on the show, Erin.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So, Erin, what did little Erin want to be when she grew up?
So funny. That's a good question. I think it depends on the age you ask, but, at some point I think I knew I wanted to be a singer, but being from Chicago, that wasn't really a thing. I think I just wanted to be happy, which still holds true today. So there's that.
That's really dope and beautiful, because I think as kids we're so, doctor, lawyer, teacher, for you to kind of boil it down to the essence of, I just want to be happy, that you were thinking much more advanced than most of us as little people, I feel.
Hell, than most grown folks out here.
Yes, very true.
Yeah. So how did you get from I want to be happy? Like, what was the actual path that you took to becoming the singer, the entertainer that you are?
That is also a loaded question. So we all
loaded?
We all went to Howard University.
Together.
Yes. In high school, or at whatever point I started getting money enough to go shopping all the time, that's what I did. And my mother told me when I was in high school, like, you need to get a well-paying job because you like to shop a lot. And so that was what kind of led me to think, oh, you need to work in finance, or you need to work in business, or like banks or something, and which is boring and stupid. And so at Howard, I went into the School of Business, and I didn't find myself there at all, really. But I'd gotten into the School of Business, so I kind of felt like I needed to stay there. But from the beginning, I knew that I always liked writing as well, because the high school that I went to was kind of like a mini liberal arts college kind of thing. And so I started doing the work of a double major in English at the same time, even though Howard was adamant. They were like, you can't do a double major in the School of Business and the College of Arts and Sciences because that's considered a dual major and it's going to take you 5 years. And I was like, I don't know you and you don't know me. And what you think is going to take 5 years is probably not going to take me 5 years because I have a 4-year scholarship. So bye. But also, like, I'm going to do what I want to do. So I was taking classes for the double major. And at a certain point, I was like, I don't want to do business after this. And so my junior year, when I went to Stanford, before the year started, I came back to Howard and I was like, good with you. Let me drop my business degree down to a minor and change my major to English. My mother was not happy because she's like, if you wanted to major in English, you should have gone to a liberal arts college that specializes in English. And I was like, that's cool. That's why I didn't call you. I called Dad. Anyway, so I changed my major to English. I got business to a minor, and I thought that I wanted to still be like in business. And so I always liked books. I liked reading. And so I went into book publishing when I graduated at Random House. which was great. And in my mind, because people there were happy, it meant it wasn't corporate, because I was trying to avoid corporate, because corporate to me just meant slavery and all that kind of stuff. And I was there for about, I graduated 2004, and I was there until spring of 2006. So like just under 2 years, because I did the rotational program. But anyway, what I realized very quickly was it was absolutely corporate. And they did not care if the books were good. They cared if there was money. And so I was like, I'm good on you. Bye. And plus there was no growth. I ended up being in publicity. They didn't have Black people, and they weren't really trying to let me grow. And I was like, but I already got books on the New York Times. Okay, F you, I'm out. So I left there. I went into nonprofit because I was like, oh, this is great. I used to do some like nonprofit stuff in high school, and I thought I was getting on the right side. I went in on the wrong side. So instead of being at a foundation, I was at a nonprofit begging for money, which was not horrible. It just wasn't great. And then I was bored out of my mind because there was no growth there. So I was like, I'm good. Actually, I really like singing and doing art stuff. So I'm just going to go to Paris for a little while. And I did that. And I was just like exploring the life of being an artist. And I did not know what I was doing. And I was poor in Paris. But I was able to like survive on petit pain and mustard and bananas. And couscous for a while. And I was staying with a friend who was also an artist. I mean, he's an artist, and everybody, I'm not famous, he's famous. But anyway, the point is, that's kind of where the transition happened. I had started taking voice lessons in New York, maybe in 2005 or 2006, because I thought that God was going to take away my singing voice. I was scared. And so I just decided I should do something about it. And so then when I started taking voice lessons and still didn't know what I was going to do, but I was like, I should do this so God doesn't take away my voice, because I love singing. And then when I ended up being bored with my jobs, I was like, let me just leave and be out. So art makes me happy. I still don't know what I'm doing with my life, but since then, that was 2007 that I left my job and went to Paris in 2008. Since then, I mean, I feel like God's been pretty good. You know, he's been providing, like, opportunities have come. And when I follow my heart and, you know, follow my inspiration, then good things happen. So that's good. You know, money is good too. But it comes, you know, it comes. And money's not everything, it turns out. So the balance is not.
God provides.
Yes. Yeah. So question, you said that you were taking voice lessons because you didn't want God to take away your voice. Explain that a little more. Was it because you weren't using it and so you were like, let me keep doing it, or just give me some
So, you know
thoughts.
how like, so earlier I said that because I'm from Chicago, I didn't really feel like singing was a career option. Like I remember explicitly thinking in high school that like when I get older, I'll be a singer and I'll sing in jazz clubs at night after I get off work. Like I remember thinking that and planning for that. And from age 5 until, I mean, now, right? Like I'm still singing in a choir, but from age 5 all throughout my childhood and high school, I was in multiple choirs. And so I was used to singing, even if I was soloing, I was used to singing in groups. And so when I went to Howard, y'all remember, y'all didn't see me singing at Howard. Like there was no, oh, look, Erin is, no. Mm-mm. I got there. And the thing is, okay, what happened was I went to a predominantly white, rich as fuck. Can I say fuck? Okay.
Girl.
Do you know how often we say fuck on
I
this
just
show?
want to make sure is the guest of the show. I went to a predominantly white, rich as fuck, white high school, right? And I sang there, and I was comfortable singing there because I was Black and they were white, and I somehow understood, even though I still sang in my church choir, which was very Black, Reverend Jeremiah A. Wright Jr., all of it, okay? Pre-Barack, or I mean, anyway. So I was around Black people all the time, and I was singing around Black people, but Howard, I don't know, just how it was like a whole different level of blackness. And I was like, y'all not about to try to play me with your like super amazing, like special solo singing blackness. And I'm not good enough. And something stopped me from feeling like I could not even compete, but be accepted fully by the blackness that was Howard's singing community. And so I actually didn't sing at Howard until senior year because Richard Smallwood had a choir. And I was like, I don't care who's competing against me at this point. It's Richard Smallwood. I'm doing it, you know.
This is going to happen.
It's happening. But I sang at Stanford. So I didn't sing freshman and sophomore year. And I sang at Stanford in an a cappella group. I like soloed all over the place. And then I sang at Richard Smallwood's choir, but it was a small thing. And it might have been like a 1 or 2 time thing. So again, like y'all didn't know. So when I graduated from Howard and I went to New York, it's New York. So I was like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just sit back here. And I think I found like a choir or 2 to sing with here and there. But I just really didn't know how to find my own voice. I didn't know what to do if I wanted to be a singer because I was never a solo artist. It was never something that I really had context for. And so what happened was I went home for Christmas one year, like I always did, previous to COVID. And we would always go to church for the New Year's Eve service. And we would pray the New Year in. And we were at the watch service and we were praying the New Year in. And all I know is, I felt like God was like, so you're not going to use that gift that I gave you, right? So that's cool. I'm just going to redistribute it. And I was like, whoa. Hey, hold on. It's cool. I got you. Amen. Okay. So then I went to this woman who was one of the soloists at the church, whose voice I just love. She's effing amazing. And so I went up to her, literally like finished the prayer, went to her in the sanctuary, and I was like, hey, Angela. Boop, boop. So I feel like God is going to take away my voice. I don't want that to happen. So here's what I need you to do. What do I do in New York to be a singer or something? Like, what do I do? How do I let God know that I don't want him to take this away from me? And she's like, I guess you could like try to find a voice coach or something. And I was like, cool. Okay. And so that's what I looked for. And I think like I asked a friend, and her friend's brother was at Juilliard for voice. And so he became my first voice teacher. And it turns out that it was his younger brother who I became friends with, who I lived with in Paris. Terrence Nance, the video guy who made all of the things that is everything. Everybody is famous. One day I'll be famous. It's fine.
Random Acts of Flyness.
Yeah, all of this. Yeah, he's like family-ish. But yeah, so his brother was my first voice teacher, and then I moved around to like a couple of other voice teachers because I think he like left and went back to Texas for a little while. But yeah, so that was the threat. It just felt like a promise. It just felt like God made a promise in that moment, and I was like, no, it's okay, I got it. Thank you, God. I love my voice. Thank you. So yeah.
I'm gonna keep using it.
This gift. Oh yeah.
Okay, so as you know, here at the Turn On, we talk about sex or fucking, as some people call it. So we like to ask. Some people are us because we like to curse. So what was the prevailing attitude about sex in your home growing up?
So it's interesting, and I guess it's probably funny too. So I don't know that there was a prevailing attitude, but my mother was a social worker, and she worked mainly like with foster kids. And so, I think she had like a certain awareness about things. She never wanted to make us feel bad. And, I'm sure she kind of wanted us to be able to come to her, but did we come to her? I don't know, probably not. But for whatever reason, I don't know where I got the idea. But somehow I got the idea that, I think I must have at church at some point read the word fornication. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's bad. And so like me and my friends in junior high or high school, or I mean, maybe it was me. And then I went to them and I was like, this is what we're going to do. And they were like, okay. But I was like,
knowing you, it sounds like it was this is what we're going to do. But continue.
So I probably came up with the idea on my own, but whatever the case, I was like, no sex before marriage. That's fornication. That's not good. We shouldn't do that. And so that was what I chose. You know, it was kind of like when I was in elementary school, I knew that I was going to go to Whitney Young High School, and I knew I was going to go to Spelman because that was just what I understood. It was a choice. I decided it, and that was what it was going to be. Obviously not what happened. Like, it didn't happen. And I'm glad that I went to Howard. So glad. But anyway, Spelman is great too. The point is, I decided at some point that I was going to be a virgin until I got married. And my mom would make fun of me because she's like, who told you that? She was like, don't you try shoes on before you take them home?
Yes, mama.
Right? Look at her talking sense.
Yeah. I was like, well, mom, that's fine. But like, I know what I'm going to do. So whatever. Sinner. And yeah, like, I don't know. It was what I decided. And so that was what, that was my story. I was sticking to it. And so that was what it was, until it wasn't that anymore. Yeah.
Until it wasn't. That's a good way of putting it.
And that actually leads to our next question, right? So we asked you to come on because the last book that we read on the show, Ho Ho Ho, featured a woman who waited to have sex. She waited a long time, and she ended up marrying the first person she ever had sex to. And then things didn't go that well. But it made us curious about what was your journey to partnered sex? Like, how'd you get from, no, I got to be in the V Club forever, to, I'm going to go on and do this right quick.
So I'm not ashamed of this. Okay. This is just my truth.
You should never be ashamed. And this is not the show for shame.
No. I mean, it's silly though. I mean, I think about it and I know what happened and I know the decision that I made and it's funny. Welcome. Here's the story. So I was a virgin. And I don't remember. Let me think. It had to have been in 2000, somewhere between 2006 and 2007. A girl who I become friends with through another friend sent me a link for Craigslist because the Tyra show was like, we want people who've never seen pornography before.
I remember this.
And of course, my luck, wonderful. It aired like Columbus Day weekend. So I was getting calls from like...
So everybody was at home.
Everybody was at home. I'm like, oh, right. And the thing is, like, I don't care, even though it's so funny because I remember my senior year, there was like this group of dudes and they were like, Aaron was like the end of senior year. Aaron, we can't tell if you're a virgin, a hoe, or just a tease. And in my head, I was like, good. Like, I don't care. But anyway.
Why? Yeah.
I digress.
Why are you trying to figure it out? Mind your business.
Figure it out because they were like, how come none of us has fucked you? Like, I don't understand. I'm pretty sure that was the reasoning. But the point was, because I was a really good flirt. I mean, I was a really good... Anyway, okay, so I wasn't fucking at Howard, and I wasn't fucking after Howard for a while. And I was on the Tyra show, which I guess everybody saw, and then they realized, oh, she was actually a virgin. That's why we haven't fucked her. So I went on there as not only the person who had never seen pornography, who was over 25, but the version who'd never seen pornography who was over 25. And so like they loved that because they were like, great. Do you get paid for talk shows? No, you don't. Why did I do this? I don't know. I was bored. It was months before I left for Paris.
Everybody want to be on TV.
I mean, I don't even think I wanted. Yeah. I just was like, okay. I was on the brink of a breakdown. I cut my locks off and I was going to Paris soon after. So that was when I was 25 because I turned 26 that year. I went to Paris. I didn't fuck in Paris. I came back when I was still 26. And what happened was I moved to Brooklyn. And at that point I was writing songs. I was writing songs and I was becoming an artist. I started working at a wine shop. I think I was working back at a nonprofit part-time. I was like creating my life and I was creating my voice as an artist. And in the midst of writing these songs, I was like, I just feel like there's a corner of life that's untapped in here. I feel like I'm missing out on something. Like there are chapters that I'm not writing because I haven't experienced.
You needed to do some research.
A thing. And I was like, you're going to have to fuck. You're going to start fucking.
You're going to have to fuck.
You're going to have to be fucking because how are you going to write about like deep, deep love if you're not even fucking? Like, how do you know? So literally that was part of that's what led me to the first dick that I ever encountered in a intercoursal type of relationship. And it wasn't great. I mean, he was like way too young. He did not know how to keep it up. And I probably didn't see him much after that at all. Because I was like, I don't understand what just happened. So that happened. And then the next person, because at that point I was like, well, I mean, get on the horse and ride.
Make up for lost time.
There's work to be done. And this guy who I had been friends with, and we had kind of been kicking it. And I was like, great, let's do this. And he was like, okay. And I don't know if he thought that, he probably didn't know I was a virgin, right? And so, you know, what the fact is, he was it's so funny. It's fine. He was in conversation earlier. I was talking about him earlier with my now life partner because we both know him, and of course I've told my life partner that I fucked him. But the point is, this guy is like very tall, very well endowed. Would I choose him again? No. Why? Because it wasn't great. Why? Because, bitch, this is your second time fucking. Like, what are you thinking? What? It was like literally.
You just don't jump to the Olympics.
I mean, it was like, what are you doing? I didn't know. I just was like, fuck it. It's fine. Here we are. Let's just, you know what I mean? Like, you trust him. He's not going to like say, hey, you know, it's fine. And then, like, I think it was either afterwards, he was like, why didn't you tell me that this was just your second time? I was like, I didn't know I needed to tell you that. I just was like, anyway, that wasn't great. And then the third time was actually with a friend of my, we don't need to talk about who it was. Anyway, the third time was actually decent, even though probably it wasn't, but it was a reasonable sized endeavor. And for whatever reason, I kind of felt like I liked him a little. So there was like some slight emotional thing, but really not. I mean, it was like we drank a lot one night and then couldn't get it up because he had been drinking. And then the next morning, it just felt like more endearing. And because it was a reasonably sized endeavor, you know, that. But eventually I did find a couple of really great scenarios that worked out, and I felt like it went much better. But that's how we got there. I needed to write songs that were about something. And so I was like, fuck it, let's fuck. Basically.
Did it help with your songwriting?
I think that it probably didn't make a difference. if I'm honest.
We think okay, so this is a thing about us Howard girls. Well, not even Howard girls, just we want to research. We want to feel like we have all the parts and the bits that we need to know in order to properly express ourselves about X, Y, and Z. And it's like, girl, honey, you ain't need to do all that. Just fucking feel
You didn't need to do it.
Listen,
Imagine.
nothing wrong with research.
Yeah.
Okay, so the book that we talked about, Ho Ho Ho, it features this woman. She ended up marrying the first person she had sex with. And you talked about your steps to enlightenment endeavorships. So my question for you is like, what was your experience like interacting with like potential partners once you started to have sex? And so you were looking at them as like, potential fuckers.
Yeah.
Fucklickers.
I think that, and this may sound weird, but when I would like meet a guy who I actually liked, I wasn't about to fuck him. I was like, nah, I actually like you. You can't have it. Because I want to get to know you, and I don't want sex to be something that you feel is like a milestone that you've reached, and now you don't need to like go deeper into the understanding of who I am and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't something that I was like using as a trick or anything. It just, when I realized that I actually liked a guy, I just knew I wasn't really trying to fuck him like right off. I mean, I lived in a studio apartment in Brooklyn for a long time. And what that meant was that my furniture was a bed. So there just wasn't a lot to do in my house if you came in my house.
Yeah.
Other than like cook and pee and sleep. So I was like, well, you just can't come inside my house.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember in church being told, like, don't put yourself in any situation that you feel like it's not like a good situation, or you feel like it's a dangerous, or like if you kind of don't feel good, then don't go there. Right. And I mean, I think that I probably had like maybe one situation where I let somebody come in my house and I was like, this is just stupid. Why did you do this? Send him home. Don't even finish fucking. Just send him home. And if you ever see him on the street, like you don't know him and pretend like it never happened. So that happened. But I think it happened like once. And then, but I really, so the thing is, and this kind of sounds unrelated, but ultimately, when I was younger, much younger, when I was like in elementary or junior high, I remember explicitly, I remember a conversation with one of my best male friends who I totally had a crush on, but eventually kind of got over, but not really until college because I thought there was still hope, even though he was engaged, but I just still, so I was the kind of girl who was always looking for my husband. And so when he and I were on the phone one day, he was like, we were talking about girlfriend, boyfriends, and I was like, what is a boyfriend anyway? Like a boy who's your friend? Like, then you're my boyfriend, right? Like, this is stupid. And I don't want a boyfriend because boyfriend has this like understanding that it's temporary. It's like, oh, let's be girlfriend and boyfriend for 2 or 3 weeks, and then let's stop being boyfriend and girlfriend, and let's go do something else. And I was like, I'm not looking for that. I was like, I really just want a husband. I don't even understand what all this is for. Just give me a husband. And so then when Brown Sugar came out, I was like, that's what I'm talking about. A best friend who becomes your husband. Like, this is what I want. So I was always very goal oriented. And so I was always looking for the husband. And so I really never dated seriously. I mean, I didn't date seriously because I could tell, I could meet a dude and within like 2 weeks, I'm like, well, I mean, no, this is not it. And so we could kick it. Like, you can buy me food. We can hang out. Like, maybe we're sharing some level of intimacy, but like, you're not it. So I'm not about to treat you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to pretend like you're something that you're not. And so I really didn't even, I think I really kind of compartmentalized my sexual brain or that connectivity with people. Because I knew that if he was going to be something important, sex wasn't really going to even be something that we were talking about until it was time. And that was just kind of how I dealt with it. So.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I wasn't fucking. I mean, I was fucking, but I was mainly keeping my fucking casual because I was like, well, there was a guy who, I don't consider us having dated, but he wanted to be titled. And I was like, I don't even, like, we just started talking. So then I was like, the sex is really good. I really wish you would just let it be that. But it was just a whole complicated thing. But like, I knew he wasn't it because he was trying to make something into something it wasn't early on. So I was like, okay, whatever. But, yeah, I mean, I think there were very, very few people who I really thought were going to be like my husband. And like, there was this one guy and he was like, he had gone to med school in Cuba. And I was like, this is my husband. And we hung out, I think. Did we hang out? Maybe we didn't hang out like immediately after I started fucking, but like soon enough. And I did eventually have sex with him. And it was great. But then I found out that he doesn't get head. And I was like, and so I cried. I mean,
why would you send him to me, Lord?
I mean, if ever you needed a clear signal that somebody wasn't the one.
I cried in bed with him that night. And then the next day I let him go.
Ooh,
I was like,
honey.
wow, I was like, this.
I'm proud of you for choosing you.
While it lasted, but
I choose me.
Not gonna work out. So, go find what you need. I'm gonna do that too. Thank you for playing. But yeah, there were very few people who I really felt strongly enough about that I was even relating them. So it was really like, oh, there's this guy, we're kissing, he's not it, but we're kissing, that's cool. And then there's this other guy, like we're fucking, he's not it, that's cool. And then it'd be like, oh, there's this guy, I really like him. And we kiss, cool, but I'm not gonna fuck him because I like him. And I want him to get to know me and I want us to, do that. And yeah, it worked out pretty well because I don't like fuckery, like, oh, let's pretend like this is something like, nah, like I said, I'm still looking for a husband. So
let's keep it a buck. So how do you feel about the way, like, having sex for the first time is portrayed in the media?
I just feel like I've said the word fuck so many times and
it's okay. We say it a lot on this show.
A lot.
I mean, this is actually a low fuck kind of
episode. Yeah. Seriously, you good.
Yeah, I think it's really fucked up because, like, I was thinking about it, obviously, earlier today. And I was thinking, the terms that we use are, oh, I lost my virginity. And it's like, I didn't lose my virginity. It didn't slip out of me one day. I didn't, like, walk on a street and it fell out of my pocket. Like, I didn't lose anything. And so I think that it actively takes away not only, like, the onus, but the, what is the word I'm thinking? The autonomy of the woman, right? It's like, I'm a woman. I make decisions for my body, for myself. And if I just choose to share my body with somebody else, then that is what happens with my permission. And granted, that's not everybody's story, unfortunately. But I just think that because we live in the fucked up productivity of America that is so patriarchal, and also like capitalism, it all plays together. But because of that, so much of what is communicated to us about our bodies, about sexual activity, I remember when I went to Ghana and I was confused. I was in a cab going to where I was staying and I saw a billboard and I think it was about like Sprite. And it was a guy drinking a Sprite. And I was like, that's so interesting. There's no sex in that ad. There's so much of what we, why is my brain not working right now?
We pervert everything.
Yeah.
They pervert everything. I remember there was this ad on the back of a truck. I think it was a moving truck. And like this guy and this girl fucking on the back of the truck. And it was like, move with us. And I'm like, what does this have to do with this? I don't understand.
Wow.
But this is how ads are constructed in America. At the same time, they're like, don't you have sex before you get married? And then they're also like, here are the condoms you need if you're going to have sex. And I'm like, whoa. There's a lot of confusion happening here. And, there's all like the church and religion and you're a hoe or you're a slut. And also, why are you wearing those clear heels? And also, it's okay if you, or it's okay if you're a rapist. We'll forgive you in about a year because she was wearing something that made you do that. Just all these things. It's fucked up. So as far as sex and like virginity, it's just, how can you not be confused? Though I think now there seems to be, I can't speak on it because I don't really pay a lot of attention to pop culture, but it seems like there's a movement in pop culture of women kind of taking back their power and, their autonomy and, using their bodies the way they want to and not being told what they should and shouldn't do. And it's funny because I think that because I grew up in a time where that wasn't the case. I remember the Janet Jackson album cover with the guy holding her breast from behind. Like that was the scandal. That was it. And that was really it. And so it was like,
you see this stuff now and you're like, oh, the young girls are going to be okay. Like they own it. They recognize the bullshit that their parents were being fed or that their parents are trying to feed them, and they own it. And so that part, it's not all perfect, but I feel like, okay, they're going to be okay.
I'm just saying, I'm not really worried because I don't really have a stake in it. And I also feel like everybody do what you do and everything should be fine. I don't have time to judge other people for like working or shaking their asses.
We could just all mind our business.
It doesn't have anything to do with me, I just want people to be safe.
That's a novel idea.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is because there's too many motherfuckers out here minding everybody else's business. But then we also do shows like this in hopes of helping folks to, be able to better express themselves and feel more comfortable and to be able to live into who they really are. I'm wondering, speaking of the things that we do on this show, what you're reading right now?
So, was I dreading this question? Possibly. Am I reading
it's
anything?
Okay, boo. If you're not reading much, it's okay.
You got stuff going on.
I was reading, I just finished reading a couple of books, which my mother suggested to me. One of them, see, I'm forgetting the author's name, but The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat. So it's like fiction. It's like kind of easy, chick lit, summer reading, whatever. So I read that and then the follow-up book, and they were fun. I'm currently digging into Glennon Doyle's Untamed, and I paused for a little bit, but I'm gonna get back to it because I've heard that it's really amazing. So,
okay, so what is turning you on today?
What's turning me on today? What's turning me on today is that my partner just got back from out of town, and he's totally been all like, oh, I have to go to the gym every day and do that and do this. But like, he's super cute, and like, he cut his hair and he actually looks great. And I'm like, oh, hey, boo. So that's one of the things that's turning me on today.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick rapid fire in which I will say a word and you tell me your favorite. So let's go. It's quick. We try to make it quick.
I'm not scared. I'm not scared.
Don't be scared.
Don't be.
It's okay.
Don't be scared. Okay. Favorite drink?
Margarita.
Oh, I love good margarita. Favorite person?
My partner, Edson Sean.
Aww. Favorite place?
Buckingham Fountain, Chicago, Illinois.
Oh. Home. So favorite word?
Poker goodness.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
I was
Okay.
about to say fuck, but I feel like we said enough fucking on this, so.
We can never have too much fucking.
Never too
But
much
As long
fucking.
as it's consensual.
After that is pulchritudinous because it means beautiful and it's ugly as shit.
I love it. Okay, what is your, because we talk about this and you always telling me you buy too much stuff. What is your favorite thing to buy?
Oh, I have everything. And I love buying y'all, but I mean, I want to say shoes.
You can say
I
shoes.
just feel like clothes and shoes. They're just, you got to have one to wear the other. Not really,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
shoes, clothes. Yeah.
I like it. And your favorite smell?
That's so interesting, right? Like, what kind of question is that? Great. I like grapefruit candles. So
That's
I
a good
guess.
one.
Yeah.
All right.
That's dope. Okay. So what's next for you? What you got in the works? What's coming up that you can share?
We know there's a big project, but
Huge project. The next thing needs to be I love my Afro Ratchet Soul, because once I finish the project that I'm working on right now, I'm gonna hop right back on that pony and get that done, which is my second full-length album that will be done at some point in the future. And I was looking forward to finishing it, and then COVID was like, "No, you won't," and I was like, "Great." So I'm just looking forward to being in the studio with the artists, with the instrumentalists, actually sharing ideas, collaborating and all that, and then getting it together and having video of that whole process. And so, yeah.
That's going to be dope. Yeah. And y'all can find out more about that and keep track by going to ArinMaya.com. It's ArinMaya.com. You can also follow you on Twitter and IG. What's your handle there?
ArinMaya. Same ArinMaya.
And it's the same on Facebook, and there's no spaces in between, right?
No spaces. And if you ever want to write my name, it's capital A, lowercase RIN, capital M, no space, AYA. Like it's ArinMaya, just one word.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Even though we're horrible about saying it because we just call you Erin. Sorry.
Right, lying sister.
It's okay. It can be confusing for people. There's some people accidentally. I don't know. Some people sometimes they're like Maya, and I'm like,
no. Who's that?
Y'all know me.
But see, that's how you know they don't actually know you.
Yeah. My name is Erin, and if you want to do ArinMaya, just make sure I hear the Erin first. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We had a ball.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for doing this amazingness that you are putting out into the world. So effervescent.
Thank you.
And thank all of
you.
Thank you for that reminder. We all need that. Yes. And thanks to everyone who was listening and watching. That is it for this week's episode of The Turn On. And we'll be back next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. This episode was produced by us, Kenrya and Erica, and edited by Ballistic. The theme music is from Brazy. Hit subscribe right now in your favorite podcast app and at youtube.com/theturnonpodcast so you'll never miss an episode.
Then follow us on Twitter at The Turn On Pod and Instagram at The Turn On Podcast. And you can find links to books, transcripts, guest info, what's turning us on, and other fun stuff at theturnonpodcast.com.
And don't forget to email us at theturnonpodcast@gmail.com with your book recommendations and your pressing sex and related questions.
And you can support the show by leaving us a 5-star review, buying some merch, or becoming a patron of the show. Just head to theturnonpodcast.com to make that happen.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon. Holla.